Harry's recently put, of course, His Majesty the King's security in yet another perilous state, all thanks to his ridiculous claims and outlandish words inside his book Spare. Spare a thought for this particular story that I'm about to share with you, because I'm sure, like me, you get very angry when you see these protesters who seemingly get away with making their stance, but then when it actually comes to being, deemed a criminal and given the right punishment, they walk away with virtually nothing. And of course, what deterrent is that? As ever, let me explain. Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Nice to have your company. Hope you're all keeping well. Yeah, I know it can happen to anybody. I understand that. If you think about it, you're a public figure, you go out into the domain, and then, of course, you find that there's these lone protesters, as they call them. There was one, of course, at the sad procession, which, of course, affected the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, when somebody rather ungallantly shouted some negative thoughts out. Dreadful, really, at that particular situation up in Scotland. As ever, he was wrestled to the ground and moved away, rightly so, but not really given any kind of caution or anything like that. Fast forward to December, when His Majesty the King was on a walkabout in Luton, and you'll remember that he got eggs thrown at him, apparently one egg by this particular individual. Now, what's fascinating about this is, as you saw, King Charles really, they don't flinch, they just carry on. But how rude to do that. Now, according to this particular individual, he wanted to make a plight about the fact that, he is a wealthy person coming to visit a deprived area, forgetting, of course, it did the deprived area a lot of good, brought a lot of focal point to that area, a lot of business that day to that area, and he wanted to highlight that given this cost of living crisis. But this particular individual, you would have thought, may have been reprimanded of the highest order. I mean, if you think about that 100 years ago, 200 years ago, they would have been locked up, wouldn't they? Put in prison, at least made an example of. Where are we today? As ever, let me explain. And so my argument with all of that particular genre, if you like, is simply this. If somebody turns up and says, oh, they want to shout horrendous abuse at someone in the public domain, then there's really no deterrent. What I would say to this particular individual is this. Okay, you come out in the town centre in Luton on a Saturday and somebody pelts your favourite coat with eggs and shouts abuse at you as you're standing there with a friend, possibly having a coffee. How would you feel? What do you think that should be worth in terms of public humiliation? Just because this is a gentleman of the highest order, you feel you can do that because you're making a protest. The only thing that this particular individual did at 21 years old is make him and his family look incredulous and stupid. But the bottom line is, of course, when you think about it, as I say, there's no true deterrent. And I'd love to know what you think to this particular story in the comments below, because I believe, given that ridiculous book now from Prince Harry, most of the senior royals are in very difficult situations, particularly with the public. We've seen more and more people saying things, shouting out, all of that sort of stuff. I'm not saying this should be deferential, kowtowing, bowing, all of that thing, but where's the respect gone in modern life? Truly, where has manners and grace gone out of the 21st century? Or do you agree with this particular fine? Do you think £100 was too much? Should he have been made an example of? Or indeed, are you applauding what he did? As ever, do let me know in the comments below. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.